What is up, Steelers Nation? Thank you so much for jumping on to another episode of All Steelers Talk. I'm Noah Strackbein, flying solo today as our boy producer Nick Belsky is out with a little bit of food poisoning. So our T's and P's go out to our boy Nick. I'm sure he will make a rocking return tomorrow. And shout out to the Pittsburgh Steelers and Aaron Rodgers for, at least at the beginning of this episode, holding off on a deal so that our boy Nick and me can react to this most likely tomorrow. We are diving into everything across the board. We're talking Pittsburgh Steelers free agency signings, Pittsburgh Steelers who have left for other deals, obviously Justin Fields, Aaron Rodgers, everything else revolving around the Pittsburgh Steelers quarterback situation, their free agency as a whole. And I've got some quotes, some inside knowledge, I guess we could say, some inside sources who are bringing some context to the situation with the Pittsburgh Steelers and Aaron Rodgers and where things stand and where things might stand before the end of the day. As always, make sure that you guys are checking us out on YouTube and subscribing to us at youtube.com/allsteelerstalk. Anywhere you get your podcasts, and all our work is at YouTube or is at si.com/NFL/Steelers. Let's dive into it. We will start with the boring stuff. We'll get into the quarterback situation here in a minute, but news has happened across the board. It hasn't just been Justin Fields leaving for the New York Jets and the Pittsburgh Steelers picking up maybe Aaron Rodgers, maybe Russell Wilson, maybe a different quarterback. There have been other moves across the board that make a lot of sense, both good and bad for the Pittsburgh Steelers. Obviously, we will start with their signings. And I mean, you kick things off with Darius Slay, a deal that I have been told is not 100% finished. There is still certainly some work to get done. And last year, you have to remember that Darius Slay was doing this before. He and the Baltimore Ravens were negotiating a deal. Things looked like he was heading to Baltimore. Instead, last minute, he flipped the switch. He headed to Philadelphia or back to Philadelphia. And that's where we're nervous things could stand as is. The Pittsburgh Steelers are relying on Darius Slay. It makes a lot of sense for Darius Slay to come to Pittsburgh, but at the same time, we are waiting for the final word. I will say this. I like it better than Dante Jackson. I do. And if it's inexpensive, it's a deal that works really heavily in the Pittsburgh Steelers' favor, to the point where Joey Porter Jr. gets to learn from Patrick Peterson to start his career and then continue to learn in year 3 when it's really crucial for him to take a step forward from another Hall of Famer in Darius Slay. I mean, that's as good as it gets if you're looking for the Pittsburgh Steelers corner situation for a year where you're going to invest in Corey Trice. You're going to want Corey Trice to take a step forward. At the same time, are going to want somebody right now who maybe things work out with Corey, maybe things don't work out with Corey, but you want a veteran, you want a day one starter, and you want Joey Porter Jr. to develop. All those three things get hit with Darius Slay. On the other side of things, they obviously lose Najee Harris, but they tender Jaylen Warren, which I think is a very under-the-radar situation for the Pittsburgh Steelers. It is wild to me that the Pittsburgh Steelers have somehow locked up Jaylen Warren for the same price as Najee Harris, but they didn't bring back Najee Harris. In my eyes, that shows you exactly where the Pittsburgh Steelers stand at running back, that they have a ton of confidence in Jaylen Warren to be their guy, and also that they are looking for a change, that they do want a rookie running back to come and be on their roster in 2025. And I would imagine that that running back, comes early. Round 1, round 3, all on the board for the Pittsburgh Steelers, whether Aaron Rodgers signs or not, because we are going to talk quarterback and how the Pittsburgh Steelers are probably going to draft someone. I have some names in the first 3 rounds of the NFL draft, and I would be shocked if they go any later. But I do love the Jaylen move. Like, I look at Jaylen Warren as a guy who has everything you're looking for in a running back. He's able to pass protect better than literally anybody in the NFL. He can catch the football out of the backfield. He's explosive. He's a 0 to 60 runner anytime he touches the football. And I think he's come a long way from I hit the hole and I kind of black out. So at this point in his career, he could be a running back one. He's not a bell cow. He's too small to be a bell cow. And I hate to be the guy that says that, but he's too small to be a bell cow. You need somebody else. You need that 1B or that number 2 option. And I think the Steelers are determined to go out and get that. I don't think it's going to be a name like J.K. Dobbins. I don't think that it's going to be, I don't know, anybody else on the open market right now that the Pittsburgh Steelers could go after. Nick Chubb is the other name that everybody's talking about. I do fully anticipate that it's going to be a NFL draft pick. One, I mean, if you don't have a second round pick right now, I would imagine a third, maybe a fourth, because again, you got to add a quarterback. You're not going to walk into the 2025 season without somebody from the rookie class. I think that is a pretty much guarantee at this point, because whether it's Aaron Rodgers or Russell Wilson or anybody in between, the Pittsburgh Steelers need somebody younger. And yes, everybody's going to talk Joe Milton, and we're going to get there. We're going to get to Joe Milton. Larry Ogunjobi is the other name to go. This is one that we all saw coming. Nobody was surprised that Larry O was gone. He was a guy that saves you $7 million. It makes a ton of sense. And you need to revamp your defensive front. You need to. The Pittsburgh Steelers were in desperate territory where they could not go another season relying on Larry O and Cam Hayward and Keanu Benton. They needed to change things up. Whether that is as simple as bumping Keanu Benton to the outside and making him play more of a defensive tackle instead of a nose tackle role, or if it is drafting somebody like a Kenneth Grant, drafting somebody like a Walter Nolan, and being able to plug and play them immediately in year one with Montravius Adams and maybe Dean Lowry and a couple of other backups behind them, DeMarvin Leal, hopefully, to take those steps forward and, I mean, completely reshape the defensive line, which is underlying the most important thing the Pittsburgh Steelers do this offseason. Is reshape their defensive front, because it's been years of running struggles. It's been years of just negative impact or very minimal impact from anybody but your superstars. They need to redo it. They need to start fresh. This is the best way to do this. Larry O was not a name that surprised me, a name that was important to move on from if you are the Pittsburgh Steelers. And then the bit of a surprising one here, and that is Malik Harrison, former Baltimore Ravens inside linebacker who replaces Landon Roberts, who heads to the Las Vegas Raiders. I was talking to good buddy of mine, Hondo Carpenter, great reporter for the Las Vegas Raiders on SI. He asked, hey, Landon good? I said, Landon's a phenomenal football player and an even better person, and that is who you're getting. And he's a great rapport in the locker room. He's easily one of the best leaders in the NFL, I would believe. And, well, he's going to give you everything that he got. And I'm shocked that the Steelers did not bring him back, but I also view this as it was a tale of two sides. This was most likely the Steelers saying, Cole Holcomb's coming back. He's going to get an opportunity to start. You have to look at that and be realistic about it if you're Landon Roberts. And a Landon going, that's a crowded room. We have Patrick Queen. We have Peyton Wilson. We have Cole Holcomb. I don't know if that's the opportunity for me to finish my career. Instead, I can go to Vegas, where Robert Spillane just went to the Patriots, and replace him as the starting inside linebacker for the Las Vegas Raiders, and Pete Carroll, who has a pretty good reputation with inside linebackers. A bit of a surprise. I think I'm disappointed more than I am shocked, because it makes a lot of sense for the Steelers and for Landon Roberts to go in their separate ways. I mean, in Malik Harrison, he's a dude who at the end of last season came on a little bit, looked pretty impressive at times, filling in for Trenton Simpson. Isn't a starter, but could be a spot guy if you need him, and a quality number 4 to compete with Mark Robinson and probably play a crucial special teams role. And he's only 27. So you're getting a lot of youth in that as well. At the same time, E-Rob, wishing him nothing but the best. And as for the Pittsburgh Steelers, we'll see what we get. We'll see what they get out of good old Malik Harrison. I think it's time, guys. I think it's time to talk about exactly what everybody came to talk about, exactly what everybody wants to talk about. We could recap day one of the NFL offseason all we want, but it comes down to what is coming for the Pittsburgh Steelers. And right now, as of this moment, which 4:13 p.m. on Tuesday, the Pittsburgh Steelers still do not have a quarterback. Let's talk Justin Fields. Let's talk Aaron Rodgers. Let's talk backup plan. Let's talk NFL draft. And let's talk what sources inside the Pittsburgh Steelers are telling Steelers on SI and All Steelers Talk. One sec. Let's start with Justin Fields. Justin Fields goes to New York on a 2-year, $40 million deal with $30 million in guaranteed money. I mean, nobody was surprised that the Pittsburgh Steelers didn't give up $30 million to Justin Fields. Not a single human being was shocked that the Pittsburgh Steelers were not going to overpay for a guy, even if he was 26 years old, and guarantee him really like Sam Darnold type money, Russell Wilson type money in a market where it wasn't big, but that's no reason to not protect yourself if you're the Pittsburgh Steelers. I was a big sign Justin. The price tag could be $20 million a year. I mean, I said 2 years, $40 million a dozen times on this show, minimum. 2 years, $40 million, $30 million guaranteed. Not what I'm looking for. Not a deal that in my eyes makes any sense for the Pittsburgh Steelers to guarantee anybody $30 million with a losing record in the NFL. And I get it. He was 4-2 and he was impressive, but 2 years of guaranteed money, you don't know if he's going to work out. That doesn't make sense. The Jets, if you want to do that, if you just want to make it happen, cool, great, awesome. But if you're the Pittsburgh Steelers, you could invest that money elsewhere. You could find options that work your budget a little bit better. And I get it. Justin Fields is a lottery ticket. I've said that a dozen times as well, but a lottery ticket that isn't worth $30 million guaranteed. I had no issues with the Pittsburgh Steelers passing on Justin for this money. I don't. And I wish Justin nothing but the best in New York. Do I think it's going to work out? New York Jets scare me. They scare me. And be very honest. The New York Jets scare me. They do not, in my eyes, look like a team ever that is a place a quarterback goes and succeeds. It's like going to the Cleveland Browns. And I hope Justin succeeds, but again, if the Jets are willing to overpay. The Steelers should not abide by that and say, we're just going to pay whatever everybody else is willing to pay for a quarterback. And that works every time, right? Almost never does. Justin Fields goes to the Jets. Again, I have no issues with it. I have no issues with Justin Fields leaving or with the Pittsburgh Steelers not trying to pay him more money than he's worth. If it was 2 years, $40 million, $20 million guaranteed, and that was the first year and that was it, okay. You have 1 year of guarantees. If it works out, awesome. If it doesn't, you're done. You move on. But this is not what this is. So the Steelers pivot. Let me tell you guys how my Sunday into Monday into today went, because it follows the timeline of Aaron Rodgers, Justin Fields, Pittsburgh Steelers, everything that went down. On Sunday night, all conversations of Justin went rather quiet. And it was starting to get a little bit weird how quiet it was. As you were talking, as you were having conversations about the conversations that you thought Justin Fields and the Pittsburgh Steelers were having, you've acknowledged and start to learn that Justin Fields has an offer from Pittsburgh, but it's not believed to be anywhere near the offer from the New York Jets. The Steelers, according to all reports and from what I have heard as well, did not offer any guaranteed money in that second year. Okay. So you're starting to think Justin's probably going to go to New York, that he's not going to stay in Pittsburgh, that this is most likely a turn of the tide that is starting to really ramp up and pick up speed. But where are they going? Justin Fields goes to New York or is going to New York. Aaron Rodgers is the name that emerges. that everybody starts talking about, that you start to hear above Russell Wilson, those are the conversations that you have. Those are the conversations that take place on Sunday. It's still Justin. Justin's still their guy. They want to make it work with Justin, but they also acknowledge that money is playing a big factor into this. I wish Nick was here because I told him this a week ago. We were talking before the show and somehow brought up Justin Fields and stuff. And I said, I don't know, man. I'm getting a little, everything I'm hearing is starting to kind of sound like the money is getting a little out of control on Justin's side and his value might be too high for the Steelers to retain him. That's the sense that you were picking up early. When it came to Justin Fields or to who was next and Aaron Rodgers, that's where it got interesting because it went from Justin's still the guy, but obviously you ask about backup plans. Obviously you ask about who's next and you expect it to be Russell Wilson, but it's always Aaron Rodgers or a draft pick maybe. Sam Darnold, Aaron Rodgers, draft pick. You go, what is going on? Is it really Aaron Rodgers? Then you hear Sunday night into Monday morning that the Pittsburgh Steelers and Aaron Rodgers are planning to have discussions and negotiations on a deal. And nobody knows how fast this is going to go, but you're hearing that's what's going on. Boom. Justin goes to New York. Aaron Rodgers becomes the name for the Pittsburgh Steelers. And I will tell you this. I will be very honest with you. I don't think that the Pittsburgh Steelers at any point, still up until right now, have viewed Aaron Rodgers as hands down, there are no questions asked. He is going to be our starting quarterback in 2025. I think the entire time they have viewed it as we need a quarterback. We need a quarterback plan. The quarterback plan here is Aaron Rodgers remains a competitor with us or for us, and we can develop somebody behind him. It's a fresh start from Russell Wilson, who we'll dive into here shortly. That's how they have and still have Aaron Rodgers in their minds. That is how they view him. It works, but we're not pushing anything. We're not really going gung-ho for Aaron Rodgers just because we need Aaron Rodgers. I'll give you my thoughts on the situation. Then I will tell you what sources are telling me, including a quote from an anonymous GM in the NFL. And no, it is not Omar Khan, although that would have been awesome. My thoughts on the matter are this. If the Pittsburgh Steelers go with Aaron Rodgers, worse things could happen. Aaron Rodgers is still a guy that gives you an opportunity, more of an opportunity than I think a lot of other guys do. If you're looking at this season and saying we don't really have other places we need to spend a boatload of money, because they don't. The Steelers don't have a boatload of places that they have to go spend big bucks. They could go and spend money on a quarterback. Then why not take a shot? What's the difference between him and Russell Wilson besides this is something new and this is a different opportunity that maybe it works out, maybe it doesn't. Who knows? We have no idea. And if you're guessing, you're probably going to guess it's not going to work out. And there's all the evidence in the world to say that you're making an educated guess there. But the same goes for Russell Wilson. And there's nobody else on the market right now, except for maybe Joe Milton. And again, we'll get into him in a second, where you look at it and say, oh, that's more upside than Aaron Rodgers. That just didn't work out in the Steelers' favor. It didn't, unfortunately. I look at Aaron as a guy, maybe, whatever. If you're going to bring him in and he's going to work, cool. And if he's going to be able to mentor somebody, which all accounts say that he can, I get what Aaron Rodgers brings to a team. I understand the off-the-field drama. I get all that. But he was a good mentor to Zach Wilson. He has worked very well with Jordan Love. His resume says he's good at that part, and you have to trust that part. So if that's the Steelers' plan, I get it. Now let's get into money, because that's the important part here. Aaron Rodgers, according to Mike Florio, in a semi quote-unquote educated guess, says $90 million over 2 years is what Aaron Rodgers is looking for. I was told today from a Pittsburgh Steelers team source that, I'll just read the quote to you, that the Pittsburgh Steelers are, quote unquote, more than willing to accommodate any free agent that they feel helps the team. However, they do not make it a practice, as others do, doing deals that don't protect the team. It has to be mutually beneficial. So, what does that mean is the big question. That means that, and this was said on the phone, $90 million could be in play for Aaron Rodgers. As crazy as that sounds, $90 million could be in play for Aaron Rodgers. But it comes at a situation where $90 million could turn into $45 million very fast, or $40 million very fast, in a situation where the Steelers and Aaron, can both dip after year one with no consequences. If Aaron feels he's ready to retire and walk into the sunset after a year in Pittsburgh, so be it. The Steelers don't owe him any excess cash. And if the Steelers look at him and say, you're washed, it's over, we got to go in a different direction, so be it. No excess cash. Nothing to hold them together after the 2025 season. That doesn't mean Aaron's willing to take that deal. That just means that that's what the Pittsburgh Steelers are looking to do in this situation when it comes to Aaron and a deal. Again, you could agree with it or disagree with it, but the Pittsburgh Steelers are looking at this saying, we have the money to spend. If we do it smartly, it doesn't impact us long term. It's just a shot in the dark at a quarterback. That maybe it works out. Maybe it doesn't. And Tone Diggs of the Pat McAfee Show, whether you're a fan of him or not, has laid this out 5 times in the last 48 hours of just Peyton Manning, Tom Brady, Aaron Rodgers, finishing your career with a bang. Maybe. Who knows? Now, this is a quote I got from an anonymous GM that really sparks things up. And if you want to talk Aaron Rodgers' legacy, this is where you talk it. This is from, again, an anonymous GM. Quote, this is going to be a definitive moment for Rodgers and his legacy. If he goes with the Giants, it's all about money because he ain't winning there. If it's about being a part of a winning organization with an elite coach and a chance to further his legacy as a winner, this is a no-brainer. I think a lot of us who have watched Aaron Rodgers' career from afar will be watching this closely. I think he's a winner, and I think he's driven to win. If I'm correct, I'll guess we'll be seeing him in the black and gold. Sounds like confidence around the league, which confidence with me remains the same, is that Aaron Rodgers is going to end up in Pittsburgh. And I feel the exact same way. I look at Aaron Rodgers as a guy that you're going to try to pay and you're going to try to make a deal work. And the New York Giants are going to throw everything they have at him, and great. But let's just run through what Aaron Rodgers gets in Pittsburgh. He gets DK Metcalf, which I get Malik Neighbors, but Malik Neighbors with no offensive line is bad. DK Metcalf. As of right now, George Pickens. You get one of the best pass blocking and pass catching running backs in the NFL in Jaylen Warren. Your offensive line is put together. It's got to work, but it's put together. They have the plans. They have the pieces in place. It's just got to work. You have a sound defense. TJ Watt, Cam Hayward, Minkah Fitzpatrick, Joey Porter Jr., Patrick Queen. The list keeps going. And the names, Deshaun Elliott, who's his buddy, apparently they're friends, is on the Pittsburgh Steelers. Now you got Darius Slay, possibly. The list of names is out there for the Pittsburgh Steelers defense to say, we're here and we're impressive. And then you have Mike Tomlin, and then you have Arthur Smith. And I understand what everybody's going to say is like, that doesn't hold the weight. It does in the NFL. It holds weight in the NFL. Those two names are big in the NFL and will remain big in the NFL. So I'm looking at it going, I also believe Aaron Rodgers is coming to the Pittsburgh Steelers. And that gives him an opportunity to go out with a bang, because think of who he plays. He plays the Jets. He goes up to Chicago one last time to get to own the Chicago Bears against Caleb Williams and say, even your new guy can't beat me. I own this city. He gets a revenge shot, a redemption shot against the Green Bay Packers in Dublin, Ireland, which is the best way that you can go out against the team that you will one day retire as. Go into the Hall of Fame as a Green Bay Packer. The last time you played them, you beat them in Dublin, Ireland. Could you imagine? And the guy who's your successor, you get to go to Miami one more time. You hopefully get a shot at the playoffs And I get it. Aaron Rodgers went 5-12 last year and had the worst season of his career. But the Pittsburgh Steelers, with or without good quarterback play over the last 7 years, have made the playoffs. And Aaron Rodgers is much better than 8-8 Duck Hodges and Mason Rudolph, and much better than Kenny Pickett. And chances are you're going to get a shot to go to the playoffs again. You're not going to get that in New York. You're not going to get that with the Giants. I predict that Aaron Rodgers is heading to the Pittsburgh Steelers. We'll see when, but I predict that Aaron Rodgers is on his way to Pittsburgh. And I would imagine it comes in classic Aaron Rodgers fashion, right at the time where things are starting to slow down and, you know, you're kind of getting bored of the situation. And then boom, Aaron Rodgers drops his bomb. And there it is. Now we'll finish up this conversation with what comes after Aaron Rodgers. And then I'll dive into all your questions. What comes after Aaron Rodgers is simple. The Pittsburgh Steelers have had their eyes on draft pick quarterbacks the entire offseason. They were very, very impressed with Quinn Ewers at the NFL Combine. I mean, I've had people tell me that Quinn Ewers drew comparisons to Eli Manning with how smart he was in those individual team meetings. They are very impressed, with Jalen Milroe and with Jackson Dart. And depending on where they fall in the NFL draft, the Pittsburgh Steelers could consider one, if not both, at some point during the draft process. I would guess Jalen Milroe makes more sense there. In my eyes, he's just a raw product that you're looking at going, okay, you know, why not? Why not take a shot at that guy and see if it works? And then the other name is Joe Milton from the New England Patriots, who Jordan Schultz says could be on the block because they signed former Pittsburgh Steelers quarterback Josh Dobbs to a 2-year deal. And they need a backup. And maybe it's not Joe Milton anymore. If the Pittsburgh Steelers are willing to trade a 6th or a 5th round pick for Joe Milton, go get him. No questions asked. He's probably a 3rd round pick in this draft class. The Pittsburgh Steelers were big fans of Joe Milton during last year's draft process. Big fans of Joe Milton during last year's draft process. And again, he would be much higher in this year's draft than he was in last year's draft. So why not go take a shot on him and say, screw it, we'll give you a 5th round. We're not going to get a quarterback in the 5th round anyways that's worth anything. Might as well go take a shot on Joe Milton, who's been in the league for a year, who looked impressive in his one start. I get it, it was against the nobody Buffalo Bills, but it still looked impressive, has an arm like no other, and can learn behind Aaron Rodgers, who also has an arm like no other, who's also kind of athletic, or at least was athletic in his day, and again, has mentored Jordan Love and has made that work. And I think he could do it again. I like Joe Milton as an option for the Steelers. I really like it. It depends on the price tag. If you are going to give up a 5th, I'm all about it. If you're going to give up something more, I'm not. Cap it off as a 5th. I'm at that point, like, you're giving up too much. Go get Jalen Milroe. Go get Quinn Ewers. Go get Will Howard. Go get Jackson Dart. Go do something else. But Joe Milton for anything more than a 5th round pick, I am not on board with, to be very honest with you. I think that there are too many needs and too many quarterbacks in the draft in those middle rounds that I'm comfortable with that would be, in my eyes, right where Joe Milton sits. Like, he would be in that Jalen Milroe, Quinn Ewers, Will Howard type of situation. And I'm okay with that if the Steelers are willing to give up a 5th round pick, which I think they might be. They seem pretty sold on wanting to fix their quarterback room, even if it's not working out. And this is a very cheap option. Very cheap option. Cheaper than if you go draft one in the 3rd round this year. Saves you a little bit of money over the next 3 years. I think it could work. I like Joe Milton, but if I had to guess, it's a draft pick, and it's somebody to sit behind Aaron Rodgers for a year and then gets an opportunity to start the year after that, which most times doesn't work out. But sometimes it does. Go ask the Philadelphia Eagles, and, you know, they'll show you a Super Bowl ring in a couple of months when they get one. All right. I've chatted everybody's ear off. That's everything on Aaron Rodgers for right now. That's everything on the Steelers drafts, our free agency situation for right now. That's everything on what's coming after Aaron Rodgers, possibly, if now. And I'll tell you this, we didn't go over a backup plan, but Russell Wilson is the backup plan, but I'll tell you, they don't feel comfortable. They don't want that backup plan. I have no indication that says that the Pittsburgh Steelers want Russell Wilson to be on their roster in 2025. None. So, and I don't think he's got a market outside of New York. So if he does come back, it'll be cheap, but I just don't feel as if he's going to come back. Again, if I had to predict it, it's going to be Aaron Rodgers. All right. With that said, we're going to finish off the show the same way we do every single day. We're going to answer all of your questions. So toss them in the chat. We'll get to all of them before we head out of here. I know we got a ton. We got a bunch of people on here right now, so I appreciate all you guys. We'll dive into them. Oh, Jerry Dulac walked it back and saying it's more likely to be Russell Wilson. We'll see what happens. I'm telling you guys everything I know. He's telling you everything he knows, and we're going to wait it out. Let's dive into all your questions. If you got them, toss them in the chat. Shout out to all our members. Shout out to all our super chatters. I greatly appreciate you guys every single day. And as Carl Spackler says, smash that like button, y'all. Appreciate you. All right, let's dive into it. We're going to start out here with the good old Madeline. Okay, guys, quick question. Where do we go from here? Is it possible to trade for Joe Milton as a backup? Could Rodgers do any better than what we had last year? Where does Russ land on our priority? Just to recap everything we just talked about really, really fast. Joe Milton for a 5th-round pick makes sense for the Pittsburgh Steelers. I'm not going any further than that. Right now, in my eyes, Aaron Rodgers could do better for the Pittsburgh Steelers than Russell Wilson did. I think he could. Like, I'm sorry, but Russ didn't give me anything exciting. If you remove last year, Aaron Rodgers has a decline that is still significantly better than Russ's, and everybody believes Aaron's that guy. Well, Aaron went to the Jets where he had to be the piece. He was the biggest piece. He was the one that was going to tie it all together. In Pittsburgh, he's just a quarterback. And I think that gives you more of an upside. I really, truly, truly do. Where does Russ line or fall on the list of priorities? I would say option 3, maybe. Right now, it's Aaron Rodgers. I think option 2 might be unknown, to be honest. It is probably Russell Wilson, but I think the Steelers will scavenge the NFL to try and find something, an alternative somewhere, and then it would be Russell Wilson in my eyes. Do you think we should sign Asante Samuel Jr.? I actually really like this signing. I think the Pittsburgh Steelers should go after a nickel corner, but the fact that they didn't get Nate Hobbs, so Nate Hobbs was their guy, and Asante Samuel Jr., I get it, could play outside and inside. I think in Pittsburgh, he works on the inside. They went after Nate Hobbs. His price tag was way too high. I personally wasn't even paying $12 million a year for a slot corner. That's crazy money. You have a guy in Beanie Bishop that you could develop. I don't know if the Steelers are super high on him, but I do know that the Pittsburgh Steelers are looking to clear up their secondary, and maybe Asante Samuel Jr. could be a splash if his market gets cheaper, which I would anticipate it does in the coming days. Steven says, hilarious to think the Steelers might face Kenny Pickett twice. I'll say this, okay? When Kenny Pickett got traded to the Browns, I mean, we all laughed. We all had a good laugh. I started thinking about it. I started talking about it, and it would not surprise a lot of people in the NFL if Kenny Pickett was the Browns' starting quarterback in week 1. That is wild. You want to talk full circle moment adjacent. This is it. You have come all the way back to the AFC North. The only problem is you ended up on a worse team with a crappier situation. I mean, shout out to Kenny, man. He was nice. He was a good dude. I'm glad he won a Super Bowl ring. I'm glad everybody wins a Super Bowl ring. He is going to get a shot to start in Cleveland. That's nuts to say, but he is going to get a shot to start in for the Cleveland Browns. It's just me today, guys, so we're scrolling through them here. I got my brother down there starring everybody's questions, and I'm scrolling through them. Rumors are Rodgers wants $90 million for 2 years, and the Steelers wouldn't give Justin Fields $40. Steelers in line for a 5-win season. Shaking my head. Miguel, I'll tell you this. It is not the $40 million that worried the Steelers. They would have paid $40 million over 2 years for Justin Fields. What they were not going to do is guarantee him money into that second season. They were not going to guarantee him $30 million. And to be honest with you, I wouldn't guarantee him $30 million either. I think that's ridiculous for Justin Fields. I think that's way too expensive for a quarterback who you have questions about. It's just not, in my eyes, a move that I'm willing to make and feel good about if I am the Steelers, because you are putting your team at risk a season from now if Justin Fields doesn't work out. If it was all 1 year, which $30 million for 1 year for Justin Fields is even crazier to me, but if it was all 1 year, there's an argument to be made there. Again, I get it. Rodgers for 90 is crazy, but all that money would be in the first year. You'd pay him whatever in the first year, whatever that would be. It would be backloaded. The Pittsburgh Steelers would work it out somewhere. So it's 40 or 35 in the first year and the rest in the second year, so that they have an easy out or an extension if they need to do that. But they would not pay anybody guaranteed money into the second season. That's on their priority list. Egyptian Roughneck, how do you feel about Kenny to the Browns? We just talked about this. I apologize. Shout out Kenny Pickett to the Browns, man. I want everybody's prediction. This is a good one, actually. Okay. Just so Nick has something to shock him tomorrow if he isn't here. I want everybody who feels like it to go to our community page and just I'm gonna put it up there. I'm gonna put it up there right after this show. What is the Browns' record with Kenny Pickett? I want to know it. I want to know your predictions here, because I don't know. And then me and Nick will predict the Browns' record tomorrow. That'd be awesome. Is Brock Purdy on the table for the Pittsburgh Steelers? I was told Brock Purdy got an offer of $45 million a year from the San Francisco 49ers, which is essentially just what his salary is this season plus the franchise tag. So it can't be that enticing. I don't think he's on the table for the Steelers. I believe that the 49ers are really looking at Brock Purdy as a piece that they're not really going to sign to a boatload of money, but they're not going to trade him. And here's the thing. What do you trade Brock Purdy for? A second round pick, a first round pick? The Steelers aren't trading their first round pick for Brock Purdy and then signing him to $50 million a year. That's almost anti-productive. I understand that they're in quarterback hell in a different situation, and maybe Brock is the dude. You know what I mean? Like, I think you could talk me into Brock being a smart idea for the Steelers. I just don't think realistically the Steelers think giving up a first round pick and paying a guy $50 million a year is going to be worth it. Really, in any situation, especially a guy who's dealt with injuries, who has gotten to the big game but has not won the big game. I personally think he's the best option, but price-wise, I don't think he's the best option. Crazy stat, DK in press coverage has a 92% completion rate. I would love to know what George Pickens is. It's probably absolutely astronomical, which would be awesome. I don't know what's going to happen with George. I'm super excited for DK. I was just at the coffee shop, actually. Shout out Tazo's Coffee Shop. And the barista was telling me that DK was one hell of a move. And I mean, I don't know anybody who doesn't think he's been one hell of a move. DK is a game changer for the Pittsburgh Steelers at all times. Fear the Beard Collectibles was just wearing her shirt to the gym yesterday. I know it's not probable, but any thoughts on trading for Kyler Murray if the cards are open for business? I don't think that's, again, I agree with you. I don't think that's probable. I don't think that's the most likely scenario for the Steelers. I don't even think that's likely for the Steelers. It kind of would depend on what you're giving up for Kyler Murray. I don't know what his contract is, but I believe it's like $40-50 million a year. If you gave up a third round pick for Kyler Murray, conversations to be had, but you're not giving up a first round pick for Kyler Murray. Our boy Donnie Droon, throwing it way back here. We were in Indianapolis for the combine, and I mean, we were staying together. One night we came home after a couple of cervezas, and we're talking about the Arizona Cardinals, and I was saying, like, hey, is, Kyler, dude, good quarterback? No. And he's like, I don't know, man. Like, I still don't think anybody really knows if Kyler Murray's a good quarterback. And that is that's a giant question that I think you need to have answered before you make that official. So I honestly, I don't think it's probable. I don't even think it's on the table. A third round pick would get me to talk about it. Real-ish. Based on all of this, the Steelers have no trade back in the first. The Steelers need Oh, the Steelers have to trade back in the first. The Steelers need more picks after all of this. Also, why not Mac Jones as a backup? I don't mind Mac Jones. I'll tell you, Carson Wentz, Mac Jones. There was another name on there that I apologize I don't remember. Jameis Winston. All of them are like, maybe good backups, maybe decent backups. But I'll tell you, I'm pretty positive the Steelers want a rookie. I like if it makes sense to me or you or whoever, doesn't really matter. The Steelers want a rookie. They are eyeing the rookie class. Again, things could change. They always do. But right now, the way that they look at it is they are eyeing the rookie class, and they view this as an opportunity to have a veteran and then hit a restart in a year. And again, like it might not make a ton of sense, but it's what the Steelers are looking to do. It gives them, I don't think this rookie, or I don't think this draft class is strong enough to say you're definitely going to get something. But I also don't think Mac Jones is definitely going to get something either. So I think that if you're going to take a shot in the dark, go take a shot in the dark on a rookie. You know, might as well figure it. Not saying Quinn Ewers is the guy, but go figure it out there. Smooty Booty, appreciate you as always. Kenny Pickett couldn't live with his own failures as a starter. And where did that bring him? Right back to us. LOL, not really, but we'll see him twice a year. Fantastic analysis of good old Kenny Pickett. Look at again, I like Kenny. I don't think Kenny Pickett's a starting quarterback in the NFL. I do have a feeling he's going to end up being the starter for the Cleveland Browns, unless they get Shedeur Sanders. But could you imagine Deshaun Watson, Myles Garrett, Kenny Pickett, and Shedeur Sanders? Would be awesome. Would be awesome. The drama with Aaron Rodgers. Just think of the AFC North. You want to talk Hard Knocks? They messed up so bad, dude. So bad. So bad. All you do is go ahead 1 year. You potentially get Aaron Rodgers, which blows Russell Wilson out of the water in terms of quarterbacks that everybody wants to watch on television. You possibly get Aaron Rodgers. You get Kenny Pickett as the starting quarterback of the Cleveland Browns after he's traded from the Pittsburgh Steelers 1 year ago and wins a Super Bowl with the Philadelphia Eagles. The Baltimore Ravens are the Baltimore Ravens, and the Cincinnati Bengals have to sign everybody. I mean, Hard Knocks messed up, man. And they're kicking themselves for this one, but it'd be awesome. Should the Steelers just trade for number 1 overall? Chris Sims just stated Cam Ward is the number 1 QB of this class and said he is the talent, or he is in this class, in the class of Jaden Daniels. Chris Sims is a fantastic quarterback evaluator and knows more about that stuff than I ever will, so I'll take his word for it. I personally don't think that anybody in this quarterback class excites me like that. That being said, it would take so much, such a crazy haul for the Steelers to go up to number 1. They'd have to give up pretty much everything this year. George Pickens, probably a bunch next year. And I'm not talking like a first, a second. I'm talking like a first, a third, George Pickens, a first next year, maybe a second next year to go from 21 to 1, because the Tennessee Titans aren't going to take nothing. And there are going to be teams as we get closer that want Cam Ward, that want Shedeur Sanders. And they're going to be the teams that are fighting for the Steelers, and they're going to have better draft picks. So it would take, in my eyes, it might just take too much to get up to go and get a Shedeur Sanders or Cam Ward at number 1. I get being nervous about giving guaranteed money, but that's going to be the apple that upsets the cart and they will be left behind. I agree with that, except for the quarterback position. That's the only place where I say don't guarantee money to somebody who isn't going to definitely work out, because it puts you in places like the New York Jets or the Cleveland Browns, or the New York Giants or the Cleveland Browns, where it's just not working out and it's not going to work out. And you can't risk that stuff. You just can't. The quarterback position is the one position where if you mess around and get money happy, you're going to mess up. That's the one position where I think there's an argument against it, and that's my argument for the Steelers. Thoughts on Dan Moore's contract with the Titans? I actually love it, dude, for 2 reasons. One, I love Dan Moore. I think Dan Moore is the nicest human being on the planet. Like, not even an exaggeration. The dude is phenomenal. I don't even care how he plays, man. I'm just glad he got a bag. I'm glad he got a boatload of money guaranteed. Like 50 million bucks guaranteed is generational money. That man has set up his family for life. Um, and I mean, again, like, I don't think it's definitely going to work out. I hope it does. I'm not totally sold that it's going to, but he just got paid. He deserved to get paid. Maybe not that much money, but he deserved to get paid to some degree. And in Tennessee, like, it's a massive step forward for a terrible offensive line. So if Dan Moore is going to go in there, I was told many years ago, Dan Moore could be the fifth best offensive lineman on a line. Well, every offensive line needs a fifth best, and that could be Dan Moore. And 50 million bucks might be a lot for it, but again, I think Dan Moore is the nicest human being on the planet, and I have no issues with him getting paid. Man, I know Nick is watching this somewhere, upset that he didn't get to say unlimited moon balls. What is the complete wide receiver room that would have fit Rodgers versus the wide receiver room for Wilson? Or is it the same regardless? I think Russell Wilson's is here. Like, I think George Pickens, DK Metcalf, Calvin Austin, that's what he needed. For Aaron Rodgers, I think it's here as well. I think DK Metcalf fits everybody. I think George Pickens fits everybody. I think Calvin Austin could do so much for Aaron Rodgers in terms of route running and speed and that kind of stuff. And I think Pat Freiermuth gets utilized way more with Aaron Rodgers. Like, I get it. He doesn't use the middle of the field as much last season or the year before that. He's a torn Achilles. I look at Aaron as bringing some upside. Again, I don't know if it's going to work out, but I think this is the wide receiver room that fits both of them. But I think Pat Freiermuth's the difference. That could be the one where if it's Aaron Rodgers, at least you're taking a shot at Aaron Rodgers utilizing the tight end position. Russell Wilson was never going to do that. Shout out David, man. I appreciate you guys as always. Hear about Kirk Cousins. I've not heard anything about Kirk Cousins. That would be a real shot in the dark here. I will say this. I have heard that NFL teams are calling the Falcons, but they're not calling about a trade. They're calling to see if the Falcons are going to release Kirk Cousins. I don't know if the Steelers are one of those teams, but I do know that teams are calling and asking that question. Well, if he's released, that's a conversation. That is a real, things have changed very quickly. If he's not really, to be honest, if you sign Aaron Rodgers and Kirk Cousins becomes available, you've messed up. You've messed up as the Pittsburgh Steelers. But until that happens, I don't think he's on the market. I don't think he's going to be on the market because nobody's going to be looking for a trade. The Falcons are going to have to eat a boatload of money and release him. That would be the only way that probably works out. Can we get back in the second round with only draft picks? I don't believe so. You'd have to move up like other pieces. You'd have to trade like a fifth and a third, or fifth and all your sevenths just to get to like maybe. I don't even think that pulls it off. You'd have to give up somewhere a third round pick. That's what I would imagine. So probably not. But I'll say this: George Pickens for second round picks feels pretty reasonable for the Steelers, and a price tag that could come back to work for them. If they decide they're moving on from George Pickens. If they're deciding that, then I think you could get a second round pick. I think you could get a higher second round pick, like somewhere near the front of the second round. That would be my guess. I apologize. I'm messaging everybody as I'm trying to go through all of this. Does the team have any interest in Cooper Kupp? The Steelers definitely have interest in Cooper Kupp, and they've had interest in Cooper Kupp since the beginning of all of this trade nonsense. Now, the Rams were not interested in trading Cooper Kupp last season. Then at the deadline, there was some interest. The Steelers made a phone call. They wanted Cooper Kupp. They could not get him. The Rams won a couple of games and decided, we're going to the Super Bowl. They were close, but Cooper Kupp was taken off the board. And then this year, they almost knew, like the Rams became too desperate in the situation and viewed it as, we're going to wait for his release like the rest of the NFL. There's a reason that Cooper Kupp made it known. They want to move me quickly. Okay, Well, no NFL team's going to look to move you quickly. They're going to wait until you're cheapest, and then they're going to make a move. They do have interest in Cooper Kupp. I wouldn't be super shocked if Cooper Kupp ends up in Pittsburgh. Crazy how I went from wanting the Steelers to blow it up to being mad if they don't get Aaron Rodgers. If you want to win, now he's the best option, in my opinion. I agree. Look at the way. Sorry, I apologize. Getting news out the wazoo right now. Nothing Pittsburgh Steelers, just news. When it comes to Aaron Rodgers, the Pittsburgh Steelers' best option to potentially pull this thing off and make some crazy miracle run is Aaron Rodgers. Like, you could go Russell Wilson, you could go whoever. It's Aaron Rodgers. That is what it comes down to. If he still has any juice left in the tank, which I get it, everybody's going to say he doesn't. If he somehow does, this is, without question, your best bet to go pull this thing off. If he has anything left. Again, that's up for interpretation. It's everybody's opinion. You can't say whether you're right or wrong. But if he does, Aaron Rodgers has done it before. He's won playoff games before. He's come down to the wire way too many times. And it's happened before. Peyton Manning stunk his last year in the NFL, but they pulled it off. Tom Brady's won one where maybe Tom Brady was just enough to win one. Maybe Aaron Rodgers could be just enough to win one if he's not on the New York Jets. How do you feel about Jacoby Brissett as a quarterback? I'm not a big fan of Jacoby Brissett as a QB, to be totally honest. I think a backup, great. If you want to make him your QB2, makes a lot of sense. But if you're looking for a starter, the other options in that Jacoby Brissett range are Mac Jones, Jameis Winston, Carson Wentz, and they all, in my eyes, make a little bit more sense than a Jacoby Brissett who just isn't going to pull that off. You could go take a chance on a Trey Lance before you go settle for a Jacoby Brissett. That's kind of how I feel there. All right, we're going to keep it trucking here. I appreciate all you guys. This is awesome. What time do you go live throughout the week? I noticed a lot of days is around 1 p.m. Pacific time, but some days you do it much earlier. Mondays and Fridays are at 9 a.m. during the off season, and Tuesday, Wednesdays, and Thursdays are at 4 p.m. all Eastern time every single week. Can we trade for any quarterbacks? All right. So outside of Joe Milton, let's talk realistic options for the Pittsburgh Steelers when it comes to a trade. Brock Purdy, if he's put on the table at all, is obviously an option that the Pittsburgh Steelers could acknowledge and say, cool. None of these names are going to be impressive. I'm just going to let you know that right now. None of these names, if they're realistic, are going to be impressive whatsoever. You could look at names like Kyle Trask in Tampa Bay. That is a name that the Pittsburgh Steelers and everybody else thought maybe he could be good. That's why he was drafted in the second round way back when Tom Brady was set to retire. Just running through possible options right now. You can make a trade for Anthony Richardson if you're really looking for Anthony Richardson. Like, if you got faith in Anthony Richardson and he's going to go for cheap, why not? They just signed Daniel Jones to a $14 million deal. I doubt it's to be the backup. I bet you it's competition. If Anthony Richardson could get a fresh start in Pittsburgh and the Indianapolis Colts could move on, they will. And again, I don't think that's the best option, but I do think it gives you a ton of upside. I do think that Anthony Richardson, if he could end up in Pittsburgh and really put his nose to the grindstone here, it could work out. Where else you're going? I don't even know. I don't think anybody else is sitting out there that you could say, there it is. That's the backup that everybody needs. Anthony Richardson, Brock Purdy, Kyle Trask, maybe the only three that you could sit here and really think of. You got to get a running back in the first or third. No defensive lineman. Are they going to draft a fifth round quarterback? I 100% disagree. If the argument is no defensive lineman in the first round or the third round, I mean, I disagree with that, but I don't know if that's what you're saying. You have to go defensive lineman in the first round. You have to. It's just too loaded. It's a need. You just made that need evident by getting rid of Larry Ogunjobi. Start from scratch. Like, don't reach. Pick a position that you know is going to work out. No questions asked. Defensive lineman. Build it. Shut it down. Look at all these big teams. The Philadelphia Eagles, the Kansas City Chiefs, now the Buffalo Bills. Like, teams build young. The Los Angeles Rams, great example. They build young on the defensive side of the football. They build it up. They build it up. They build it up. They pay their offense. The Steelers do the complete opposite right now. It's time to change the tide. I would go defensive lineman. No questions asked. When it comes to a quarterback, I'm guessing it's the third round. Stinks, but I'm guessing it's the third round. Noah, has George Pickens commented on social media yet about the DK trade? No, he has not. I haven't heard anything about George Pickens. He posted a picture of his sweatshirt or something shortly after the trade, but that was about it. No word yet. I'm sure there are conversations being had in Pittsburgh currently about the direction of George Pickens, whether it's him and his agent, whether it's his agent and the Steelers, whether it's the Steelers and the Steelers. I'm sure everybody's talking about what's coming and what's coming next. But no, I have not heard anything from DK or from GP as we sit here currently. I read Kyler Murray or Joe Milton as a 2 under Rodgers. Thoughts? Kyler Murray would never come to Pittsburgh as a number 2. I get what you're saying. That would be fantastic. I don't know where you read that. That would be awesome. I don't think it's realistic. I don't think it would actually happen. The way I look at it is Kyler Murray has been a starting quarterback in the NFL for too long. The Arizona Cardinals don't have a backup plan. There's just no point. Like, if this was a loaded draft class and you could say, we're going to trade and stockpile and go get somebody new, great. But if you're not picking first or second, you're not getting a quarterback. And the Cardinals don't want to give up. They're not going to give up Kyler for nothing. You know, they were not too far off last year, and Jonathan Gannon's probably fighting for his job. So I just don't think Kyler's a realistic option. What are the chances we stabilize the running back room in the first round? Really, if they don't get one in the first, can they possibly get a decent back in the third? They could definitely get a decent back in the third. There are going to be a lot of options. Marina's out of Miami. I think there's a possibility that names like Quinshon Judkins fall to the third round. Caleb Johnson, depending on where you rank Caleb Johnson. But I don't think running backs are going to fly off the board in this draft. They're going to be very good, but I don't think they're going to fly off the board. I think the third round presents a lot of possibility at the running back position. I would be a little bit surprised, not shocked, but a little bit surprised if the Steelers went running back in the opening round of the NFL draft. Just feels like it's a reach. Just feels like it's a reach if it's not Ashton Genty, excuse me. Could it happen? Definitely. But I don't think it's going to. It's not my idea. It's always great when somebody starts it like that. But what if we trade a 6th or 7th pick for Joe Milton from the Patriots? I mean, I'm all about it. 5th, 6th, 7th, 2 7ths. I don't care. Trade him. I'm all about that for Joe Milton. I think it works out. I think that's the sweet spot. If you could get him for less than or for more than a 4th, less than a 4th, however you want to word it, I think that's the best case scenario for the Steelers' backup plan. Easy. Who can utilize GP and DK the best with who's remaining at quarterback? Also, with that said, who will have a bigger season? Open the door or open the other wide receiver. To open the other wide receiver up more. I think DK is going to have a bigger season than George Pickens is if they're both still on the Pittsburgh Steelers. DK is DK, man. His worst season in the NFL is 900 receiving yards and 5 touchdowns. Like, that's a great year for any other receiver. For DK, that's a bad one. That's an off year. So I'm guessing that DK is going to open the door for more George Pickens, but I'm guessing DK himself still absolutely kills it. Where's Nick at today? Nick's down with some food poisoning, unfortunately. Do the Steelers even care that they might lose me for the season if they sign Rodgers? Do they even care? I don't. I think Aaron Rodgers is not the worst option in the world. He's not the best. He's not the best, but I'd be more excited about Aaron Rodgers than I would Russell Wilson. I'll say that. If/when Aaron Rodgers comes in, does that change your thoughts on keeping George Pickens around? I mean, yes and no. Yes, because I'm just so curious of what would happen. No, because I just think that's too many personalities in one roster. And while yes, GP is phenomenal, I just don't think he's going to show up for training camp if they don't give him a fan, or give him a contract. Excuse me. Being it's overreaction to Tuesday, tell me why this isn't like last year with Ayuk. I feel like Omar waited till there was nobody left. Again, we had to have had a good idea. Justin was not signing. They didn't have a good idea until the last couple of days. It was like the last week you started to get the thought that it was just going to be the Jets that offered too much money for Justin Fields. And there's just nothing that there was nothing they could do about it. You know, they really put offers on the table that they felt comfortable with about Justin Fields. I don't know what those exact offers are, but I also know that $40 million, $30 million guaranteed is too much money for Justin Fields. They weren't going to match it. It is a little bit like last year. You can't say it's not. That's not an overreaction. But I just, it's different because the market was so small. If the market was massive, it'd be different, but the market stunk so bad that last year Ayuk was a member of many who were out there. This year it's Justin Fields was the member of two that were out there. And now you have to go to some backup plans. Rumors are Rodgers wants $90 million for 2 years and the Steelers won't give Justin Fields $40 million. The Steelers, never mind. Excuse me. I already read that one. My bad. Is Khan conning us that he knows what he's doing? No, Omar Khan does not know what is going on right now with the Pittsburgh Steelers or if a signing is happening from everything that I've been told right now. Where does he say he can mentor? Where does it say he can mentor someone? I mean, he mentored Jordan Love and did a pretty good job. And Jordan Love has thanked him and praised Aaron Rodgers many times. And I get it. Zach Wilson didn't work out, but Zach Wilson also had great things to say about Aaron Rodgers. It doesn't like the results I understand, but people got to acknowledge like there's a difference between hating him because he's not a good quarterback option and being realistic about the situation and being realistic about the situation. I mean, Ben was a terrible mentor. Ben's 80% of the reason that the Pittsburgh Steelers are in this predicament to begin with. And Aaron Rodgers is not that guy. Like he's just not. Noah, my man, I just heard you mention the Pat McAfee show. Are you a paid member of his channel? And talk in the chat. If so, I'm sure you might have seen my name pop up a few times. I am not a paid member. I do watch the Pat McAfee show frequently, but that's all. I spend my entire day. I mean, I have a television right here, and if I'm not at the facility, I literally sit at this desk for 15 hours a day, and I just put on YouTube and go from the Pat McAfee show to the Rich Eisen show, and NFL Network, and anything else that I could consume NFL in throughout a day. But shout out. I'm glad that you're giving some love to the Pat McAfee show, and I am interested in going to the big night out. So if anybody's going, you let me know. With all the compensatory picks we're expected to get, do you think we use those to trade up for a quarterback? So here's the thing is the compensatory picks are next year. They're next year's draft. They're not this one. So it'd be it'd be after the 2025 season. That's when the Pittsburgh Steelers would be handed one. I do expect them to get a third. No, I take that. Yeah, I do expect them to get a third. They won't get any this year. I think Najee's went from a third to a fifth where we stand right now because he signed for such little money with the Chargers. But I'll have a definite answer on that tomorrow when I get some time to sit down and kind of break those things down. What would it take to get Jackson Dart and your thoughts on Jackson Dart? I like Jackson Dart, but I don't think I'm getting Jackson Dart any earlier than the second or the third round. Like, I just don't. Like, if Jackson Dart is the guy that you're going to take a chance on, him and Jalen Milroe makes sense in the second, even though the Steelers don't have a draft pick. If you can move up into the second, early third, great. I like the value there. I don't like him in the first round. I think you're taking a risk on a guy that isn't Lamar Jackson. He's more Johnny Manziel. It's like fun, cool, exciting, but there's not the crazy ups. Like Lamar had the wild upside that you're just like, I can't believe people are passing on this. I don't think Jackson Dart does. I think Jalen Milroe does, but not enough to make it worth it anything higher than the second. What would Cooper Kupp's contract look like? I would guess 10 million bucks a year, somewhere around Devontae Adams with much less guaranteed money. That's what I'd be looking at if I was going for Cooper Kupp. I don't think he's going to be expensive. This is if he gets released. I think he's going to a team that keeps him a competitor. The Steelers are viewed as a competitor, whether anybody wants to believe it or not. The Steelers are viewed as a competitor, but I'm not going to act like the Chiefs and the Bills wouldn't love to have Cooper Kupp, and the Vikings wouldn't love to have Cooper Kupp, and the Seahawks wouldn't love to have Cooper Kupp, and all these teams might be available in the market. With not having a second round pick, how do we draft now? Running back in the first. I still think it's defensive tackle in the first. The Steelers just released Larry Ogunjobi. They have an immediate need there. It's a massive need. Like, I get it. Running back is the flashy position. Defensive tackle is clearly the bigger need. Jaylen Warren's fine. You could get a number 2 that isn't the craziest thing in the world. I would imagine that defensive tackle is the first round pick. Running back or a quarterback is the third, but I wouldn't be surprised if the Steelers found their way back into the second round to make a move there before the NFL draft. Noah, if I were Omar Khan, I would trade down a few spots and then trade out of the first round to the second. You would then have picks to fill most needs. If the situation presents itself, I think that makes sense, but it all depends on circumstance. If there are quality defensive tackles still on the board, a number of them, and you're willing to move down, great. But if there's one left and you're feeling really good about it, or if it's your guy, you get your guy. Like, the Steelers don't have an abundance of needs. They need a backup running back. They need a backup quarterback. They need right now a defensive tackle. And that's like it. That's all they need. They have a wide receiver core. They are probably going to have a starting quarterback. It's those 3 needs, some corner help, and maybe a third string safety. I think you could get all those in the draft picks they have, or you could start to trade guys to adjust some things. But again, if the circumstance presents itself where the Steelers are sitting there at 21 and there's nothing there and they're feeling fine about moving back, or there's too much there and they're feeling fine about moving back, I think it makes all the sense in the world to add draft picks and not cap yourself just because you have to pick there. Shouldn't you try to trade GP and get some assets? Judging by your YouTube thumbnail, okay, and your name, I'm guessing you're a Ravens fan. But I think trading George Pickens does make sense for the Pittsburgh Steelers if you could get the right compensation for him, which I think is a second-round pick. I think an early second-round pick, and I think that makes so much sense for the Pittsburgh Steelers. What does George Pickens need to do to be re-signed? He's got to play this year on his final year of his rookie deal, because he will not get a contract this summer. There's no chance you're going to pay 2 wide receivers in one summer after watching the Cincinnati Bengals and everybody else try to pull this off and it just not work. And pay TJ Watt, who's about to get a boatload of money. It's not going to work. So it's got to be a full year. You're willing to play under the final year of your deal. There could be no distractions, no issues at all, and you have to look good. And then next year, you're going to have to take a deal that's just about $30 million, but nothing more, which is going to be cheap for George Pickens. So I think the chances of him re-signing are very slim, maybe none right now, but never say never in the NFL. Can 39 bring a second pick would it be worth it? Would they do it? Excuse me. I don't believe they would do it, but I think he could. I do think Minkah Fitzpatrick could be worth the second round pick to pretty much anybody in the NFL, and they'd be willing to hand that over with ease. But the Steelers, there are certain guys that the Steelers look at as just non-touchables, and Minkah Fitzpatrick is one of them. I don't know if I agree with it. I think Minkah is great, but I also think that Minkah needs to do way more. So I see the argument for trading Minkah, I've pushed the argument for trading Minka, but I also don't think the Pittsburgh Steelers would actually do it. All right, let's finish it off with this one. What about Mason Rudolph? I don't think Mason Rudolph is on the Pittsburgh Steelers' mind currently. That could change, maybe, but he's got to be viewed as a starter. I don't even think he's got a market right now. Again, if that changes, things could change, but the Pittsburgh Steelers are looking for Aaron Rodgers, and I bet you that they have a couple of backup plans before they go Mason Rudolph. Mason probably isn't going to be that. If he is, that's awesome. I think Mason's a decent quarterback in the NFL, a quality backup. I don't think he's a starter. But the Steelers, he's got experience here. George Pickens likes him. Deontay was a massive fan of Mason Rudolph when he was here. The coaching staff, which would just be Mike Sullivan, I guess, very much so enjoy him. But again, I don't think Mason Rudolph is on the Pittsburgh Steelers radar. All right. With that said, guys, we are heading out of here. Thank you so much for jumping on to another episode of All Steelers Talk and helping me fly solo. I can't tell you enough how appreciative I am, especially for you guys sticking around with me when it's just me on here talking to you guys for an hour. For those of you who asked about being a member and not knowing how to become a member, there's a link in the description of this video. You could find the link there. Just click on it. It will take you right to the membership page where you can click join and become a member at any time. Shout out to all our members. Shout out to all our super chatters. I appreciate you guys. Make sure to subscribe to us on YouTube, youtube.com/allsteelerstalk. Check us out anywhere you get your podcasts. And as always, find all of our work at si.com/NFL/Steelers. Tomorrow's the AST call-in show. So make sure that you are calling if you are a member, leaving your voicemail, and I will make sure that I answer that question tomorrow morning on the call-in show. Until then, I will talk to you guys tomorrow. Enjoy another beautiful day in the Berg.